It is now 09:10 on March 12th, 2025. And I'll call a meeting of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority Board of Directors to order. Please call roll.
Yes. Ms. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Byrd?
Here.
Ms. Masters?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Any public comments registered?
No, sir.
Okay. Item number 2, adoption of minutes for the board meeting of January 29th. Do I hear a motion to accept?
I move to accept.
If there are no changes, I'll move.
I move to accept.
Okay.
I second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Joyce
All-
was saying something.
Joyce said something?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I made the motion, I thought, but that's fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 3, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the negotiation and execution of the termination agreement related to the Border Highway West project with the Texas Department of Transportation and any other instruments necessary to implement the intent of the referenced agreement. Robert.
Good morning.
Somebody.
Good morning, board members. This is Raymond Tejas, Executive Director of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority, and I'll be briefing you on this one. This is a long time in coming, so I'm going to go back a little bit into the history on this one very briefly, just to remind the board what this is. So the Border Highway West project was one of the toll projects that was planned for the region. This is a project that we partnered with TxDOT on to complete the design and the construction of the roadway. The roadway has been open for quite some time, but as we were nearing completion, we updated the traffic and revenue study for the planned, and in fact, actually, if I could ask IT to bring up that graphic from our website. As I'm speaking, so you can see what we're talking about, because the roadway is actually in operation, has been for quite some time. It runs roughly from east of downtown near US 54. There it is in purple, east of east of downtown by US 54, and heads all the way out to the west to Racetrack on the west side. And so again, this was a joint project being developed by TxDOT and the RMA. TxDOT managed the construction of the roadway and all of those activities. The RMA managed the design and the installation of the toll facilities. Again, it was planned as a toll facility, part of the larger group of toll projects that was being implemented for the region. Late in the game, we developed an updated traffic and revenue study which identified some shortfalls on the planned or on the anticipated toll revenue. Ultimately, TxDOT and the RMA had agreed that this would proceed as a non-toll facility. So what that meant then at that point was a lot of paperwork to undo the toll designation. So what you see before you today is a termination agreement. The agreement itself is actually quite short, but the recitals are pretty lengthy, and it gives you all of the background in terms of how we got to where we are. Ultimately, though, this termination agreement terminates all of the agreements between TxDOT and the RMA as it relates to the Border Highway West project. It removes satisfies any debts that were owed, any of those things that are outstanding are all resolved through this agreement. Now, I will mention there is a second agreement that will come that we are negotiating with TxDOT as we speak now, and that will handle an additional bit of debt. And so let me go into that one very briefly. Back in, I want to say it was 2008, 2009, somewhere in that time frame, the RMA executed a regional toll plan with TxDOT, and the idea there was that the RMA partnered with TxDOT to identify the proposed toll projects for the region. Through that regional toll plan, 4 were identified. And we used essentially $1.1 million from TxDOT for the development of that plan. The idea was, as each of those plans came online as an independent toll road, the revenues generated from those tolls would then be used to pay TxDOT back for the regional toll plan. There was a provision in there, though, that said if the facilities do not are not operated as toll facilities, then the debt is extinguished, basically. So some of that debt is passed through the various agreements over the years, and so that second agreement that we're negotiating with TxDOT right now will extinguish all of those debts. So really tying up all of those loose ends and terminating all of the various agreements and the various debts that were identified through this program. So that's what's before you. I'm happy to answer any questions. We also have Brian O'Reilly on. Actually, I don't think we have him online. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. But ultimately, I would recommend approval of this item.
So we're just closing out this project, right?
Yes, ma'am. That's it.
Okay. So I'll move to approve.
All right, I got a question.
Yes,
You
sir.
refer to it in two different ways, Border Highway West and Border West Expressway. What's the right answer?
That's so Border West Expressway. Yeah, it's a good question. Let me try to remember back in time.
Raymond, I believe it was originally known as Border Highway West, and then the name changed to Border West Expressway. I think that's what happened.
Thank you. I'm trying to remember which came first, but ultimately it's the same project. It's this project that you see on your screen right now, roughly east of downtown, headed all the way past Racetrack.
Well, my only comment is your documentation of what you're canceling and finishing up and tying loose ends on. It'd be nice if you used the same definition of the project, same name.
Well, the termination agreement refers to the Border Highway West project because that's the name of the underlying agreement that we are terminating. So we're good there. I think the general description, like the Border West Expressway that you see online, that's the later name of the agreement that's used just generally. Okay. So for purposes, to your point though, the important name is Border Highway West because that's the underlying agreement that we're terminating.
Okay. Any other comments? We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I second.
We have a second. Any other comments? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 4, presentation, discussion, and action on board resolutions authorizing the advertisement of a construction letting and the execution of an amendment to the interlocal agreement design of passenger bus shelters with El Paso County.
IT, could you bring up the monitor? Thank you. Okay, so I've got a PowerPoint for you. This project may look familiar. We were actually here 2 years ago to let this one, but we're back now as there's some revisions made, so we're going to go through the project purpose, the location and scope, and then project timelines. So this is the countywide bus passenger shelters project. It's a county project, and we're hoping to let it this spring. Funding will come from both the county and TxDOT grants. The action before you today is to approve the letting, but also improve an interlocal with the county, giving us access to the funding for construction. And then Atkins Realis, as our GEC, will provide construction management on the project. So as you can see on the screen now, here's a map of the routes that the county transit currently operates. Got the different colors. Then on the next slide, I apologize, they're all so small, but as it's spread out, we've got where the actual bus shelter locations will be. You may recall that we previously built some bus shelters with the county. We only had funding, I believe, for 9 total out in Homestead Meadows area, and we brought some boards. This is back when we were still in council chambers, and we showed you all, look, eventually we plan on doing more than 100 type locations for the county. this is that project with more than 100 locations. So when we brought this to you originally, and you'll see this is original here, these are the 3 different categories of amenities. We had 25 in category 1, 48 in category 2, and 39 in category 3. After we brought it to the board and requested approval for letting, the county asked to relook at this again and redetermine what worked where, and they also reconfigured their routes, and so we needed to adjust some locations to account for those new route locations. So this is the revised plan: 22 in category 1, 34 in category 2, and 53 in category 3. We thought it important to make sure that we brought this back and reminded you that we had been here before, and we actually have your approval to go letting, but since it's changed, we want to bring it back to you. So the role of the county is to provide construction for the project and give us owner input throughout construction. The RMA will prepare and let the bids for construction bids, and then provide construction management during the project. Our rough timeline has bids opening April 24th, and in a very quick turnaround, we might be able to bring it back to the board in May, otherwise probably in June. And then hopefully we can start in the summer, as early as June if we're able to bring it back to you in May. We do think the timeline for construction is about 10 months, and that we could be completed in spring of 2026. So before you today is the resolution that authorizes or I believe there's 2 resolutions, or no, it's Board Resolution 1, the interlocal with the county, and then the second one to authorize the RMA to let the project. And we do recommend approval.
I do have a question, since I am new to this board. How do you determine which one's A, B, or C, or how do you determine that?
So the county was involved with the design, and they're the ones that primarily gave that guidance. I think they know based on what stops maybe have the most ridership or most exposed to the elements, but they've got their routes, and they were heavily involved in the design phase to help determine that. Funding also plays a large role. Ideally, you could fund everything to the max, but that's not always the case, and there are limited funds available for this.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, now we need a motion to approve.
I'm sorry, one motion can approve both resolutions.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I make the motion.
We have a motion from Ms. Bird. We have
I'll second.
We have a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? None opposed. The motion carries. Item number 5. So presentation, discussion, and action on board resolutions authorizing the advertisement of a construction letting and the execution of amendment to the interlocal agreement with El Paso County for the John Hayes Street Extension Phase 2 project.
Okay, Robert Studer, Director of Finance, for the record. Another one where we've got 2 resolutions for you, one an interlocal with the county, giving us access to the construction funds and their portion of the construction funds, and then 2 authorizing the board to let the project. Same agenda as last time. So phase 2, we're hoping to let this spring the reason is we're wrapping up phase 1 right now. So phase 1, we actually put out, I believe, a year and a half ago. Construction started in November of 23, and we'll hopefully conclude this summer. And so we want to follow that up right away. It's the same portion of the roadway. So the construction project budget is from federal funds, the same as it was on phase 1, and then also from the county for the local match. The RMA will execute an agreement with the county where we'll provide the construction management, and the design was originally done through our IDC program, and then construction management will be completed through one of our GECs. This is a map showing you on the right-hand side where the project is. I believe it's about a 3-mile stretch of road. Phase 1, as I mentioned, is under construction and is close to being complete. That included some water work, but it also prepped the site, I believe, for phase 2. So we're in good shape to move forward. So in the middle, it's grayed out. I'll use my mouse to highlight it, but phase one included these first interior lanes, one northbound, one southbound. Phase two is gonna be 2 additional lanes in each direction, and then sidewalk, shared use path, I believe, on either side of it. But phase one, this is the middle part that's grayed out, and then phase two is what you see in the dark part. The role of the county is to provide the construction funding and then provide owner input as we move forward with the project. The RMA will prepare and let the construction bids and then provide construction management. Our proposed timeline is to open bids on May 13th and then hopefully award the bid in July. It's a bigger project. I think it'll take more time to go through and review bids and make sure things are good, but that's the proposed schedule. Ideally, we can start the project in August. It will take about 12 months to complete, and maybe we can get it done in the summer of '26 or the fall of '26. Requested action is to approve the 2 motions: 1, the interlocal with the county, and 2, the resolution authorizing us to let. I would point out that we brought the advance funding agreement with TxDOT, which gave us access to the federal funds to you previously, which you all approved. And we do recommend approval.
Okay, we have any questions or discussion on this proposal? No, we need one motion to approve both resolutions.
That would be sufficient, thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I move
We have
to
a
approve.
motion, a
I
second.
second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Item number 6, presentation, discussion, action on board resolutions authorizing the advertisement of a construction letting and the execution of an amendment to the interlocal agreement with the town of Horizon City for the Rodman Street Shared Use Path Project.
Could you repeat that, Jim? I'm just kidding. You did a great job. The Rodman Street Shared Use Path Project. I struggle with it. I just did right there. Yes.
That's why I took
You did better than I
I
did.
took an extra drink of water.
Thank you. IT, could you bring up the presentation? All right, so this one's going to look very familiar, very similar to the last 2. We've got an interlocal this time with the town of Horizon. They've actually already approved that interlocal, and then the resolution authorizing us to let the project. Same agenda as before. It's a Town of Horizon City project. It's planned for a spring 2025 letting, hopefully starting construction in the fall and maybe completing in the winter. Could be a late summer construction start, depending on the timing of executing the agreement. Again, we are going to execute an agreement with Horizon City. As I mentioned, they have already approved it. We'll provide the construction management. The design was completed through our IDC program, and HNTB, acting as our GEC, will provide construction management on this one. The red line in the center is the location of this project. Now, this one is cool. We've got several projects with Horizon, all of them taking place in this very close area. So that red line is actually going to connect a trail, and it's difficult to see here, but it kind of waves along here, and then we're going to connect up to this park. And so it'll be a nice connection from the existing trail up to this park. And then this is actually going to be a shelter stop that we discussed 2 items ago. Will be a shelter stop here. We're also working with Horizon on acquiring some parcels in this area here for their eventual transit-oriented development. So we've got at least 3 projects, I believe, maybe 4, all in this area. I think there's some road projects we're also working with them on in this area. So this is a nice amenity to add here in Horizon. This is the project scope. So you've got the travel lanes, and then this is the shared use path on the left-hand side. We're gonna, as you can see on the bottom, concrete header curb, paving the path, driveway construction at existing driveways. So folks that have driveways there will have a little bit impact during construction, but they'll get a new driveway for a portion of their driveway. Horizon will provide the construction funding for the project and provide owner input during construction. The RMA will prepare and let the bids for construction and provide construction management. Our procurement timeline includes opening bids on April 22nd and hopefully bringing the agreement to you in May, or again, maybe June, depending on how long it takes. Construction timeline could start in the fall, take 4 months to complete, and we could be done before the end of the calendar year if things go smoothly. So again, we have 2 items, 42 resolutions authorizing the execution of the interlocal, which Horizon has already approved, and then authorizing the RMA to let the project.
Can
We
you
do
go back to the
recommend-
map real quick? what are the streets, those main streets? Yeah,
I'm sorry.
what
This, I
street is that?
believe, is Horizon Boulevard.
Okay,
Raymond, yeah, this is Horizon Boulevard, and I forget what it's connecting up to right here. If you know Raymond, or
That's Vimy Webb. The other large roadway in green is Darrington.
oh, that's Darrington,
And,
okay.
yes, ma'am, and TxDOT is redeveloping that right now for Horizon City.
Okay.
If there are no other questions, I'll move to approve. I'm really excited to see all the work we're doing out there too.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a, just like Joyce just said, there's a lot of really neat stuff that's gone on and happened there over the years, and I don't think, have we done a single ribbon cutting event or anything like that for any of these big projects? They're pretty, some of those projects are pretty neat out there.
I believe most are still, for us, are at least in the design phase, and now we've talked about it at the finance committee and the board that we're moving largely into construction, so we may get to that where we have a ribbon cutting or a groundbreaking as we start or end some of these construction projects.
Because some of these entities are, like these municipalities and everybody we're dealing with, you know, they're doing some, that's some pretty nice stuff between, with the county. It seems to me there's a lot of good press out there to be had for a lot of these things going on, other than the negative press that's been associated with Pelicano. There's a lot of really good stuff out there.
And we also, Jim, just to let you know, in the finance committee, we talked about maybe even going for a visit to a site so that board members understand the site a little bit clearer once you see it and, just not on paper.
Yeah. I would recommend that you go out there and just drive around those roads that we've been improving. It's a pretty neat little thing. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion's carried. Okay.
Thanks.
Item number 8, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the execution of an amendment to work authorization number 4 with HNTB Corporation for the Weiler Aerial
Jim,
Tram.
we're on item 7. I'm sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt
we
you.
missed 7.
We need to jump back to item 7.
Excuse me?
7.
You were reading item 8. We need to take item 7 first.
It's very fun.
Throw something at me next time.
We'll tell your watch.
You're too fast for us, Jim.
I approve that and silently. Okay, item number 7, presentation, discussion, action on board resolution establishing scoring criteria and authorizing the issuance of a procurement for financial advisory services. Okay, Sissy, that's your thing. Okay.
IT, oh, perfect. Thank you, IT. So, just as a quick reminder, about a year ago, we were working on the refunding of the 2024 bonds. We had our financial advisor, Hilltop, here with us, and they were very helpful and instrumental in that process. However, that contract is expiring, and so we've got this PowerPoint for you today. In October of 2020, the board selected Hilltop Securities, and we entered into a contract with them. That contract is set to expire this October, requiring the issuance of a new procurement. We are suggesting to use the same scoring criteria that we used the last time, and staff did notify the finance committee during our January meeting that this would be coming forward. This is the proposed scoring criteria. It's largely based on the firm experience and qualifications, but also the team members that would be assigned to the RMA, their experience and qualifications. As you know, the RMA is a little bit of a unique organization, and so that makes a difference when we're looking at something. We want folks with a transportation background and some willingness to do unique things, but cost of services also plays a role in this, as we are what is known as an infrequent issuer. We don't go to the market often, and when we do, it's usually in smaller amounts, and so that makes us an infrequent issuer. And therefore, the cost of services matters, as we're pretty small, and so that will play a role as well. We ideally will get a member from the city of El Paso who's got experience working with financial advisors to sit on the procurement and score the proposers, the respondents. Same with the county, and then we'll find someone from one of the other partners, or maybe if we find someone at either the city or county, we'll get a second person from one of those. But those are the entities with which we've issued debt and used our financial advisor in the past, so we want them to make sure that they have insight. But their recommendation will come to the board, and the board will make the final selection. We're hoping to get it out later this month and advertise it, review the, it's a different style of review than the other three where we're doing low bid, so it'll take some time for that committee to review the proposals, and then we'll bring it back to you hopefully in July or August with a recommendation on which firm we'd like to go forward with. So, requested action item, a motion to approve board resolution adopting the selection criteria and the scoring, and then also authorizing the executive director to issue the procurement for financial advisor services. And we do recommend approval.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion?
And I'll second it.
Okay, we have any further discussion? That looks pretty straightforward to me until we get the responses to the RFP. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, now we're going to item number 8. How many of you remember what I read? Discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the execution of an amendment to work authorization number 4 with HNTB Corporation for the Weiler Aerial Tramway Phase 1 project.
Okay, no PowerPoint or graphic or anything on this one. Originally, during the design phase, Texas Parks and Wildlife wanted to use their own software e-builder for project management documents during the project, so they can see what's happening with any of the design documents. However, as we've moved into construction, Texas Parks and Wildlife is now requesting that we use a different software, which is called Procore. So this amendment to HNTB's contract for construction management adds $17,000 so that HNTB can access that software, and then we'll give access to Texas Parks and Wildlife so that documents can be shared throughout the project. This is a Texas Parks and Wildlife request. We have funding through the interlocal with Texas Parks and Wildlife, so there's no amendment that. This is just an amendment to HNTB, and we do recommend approval.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That was an exciting one. Item number 9, discussion and action on board resolution authorizing the execution of an amendment to work authorization number 66 with Atkins Realis USA, Inc. for the Langford Street Improvements Project.
Okay, Mr. Smith, this is Raymond Tejas again with the RMA. I'm going to take you through the rest of the items, I believe. So the one just read into the record deals with the Langford Street Improvements Project. This is a project that we've partnered with the town of Clint on. They received some funding from the Housing and Urban Development Department. And this one really is just a cleanup item. So HUD has asked us to revise the work authorization that we are using for Atkins to provide the design and construction management services for this particular project. And so that's what you see as part of your backup. There's no change in fee. It's just a clarification to that we are adding, that Atkins is providing design and construction management services, and a revision to the budget sheet that shows the different fees for those types of activities. So again, just a cleanup item requested by the funding organization, the HUD in this instance, and we would recommend approval.
Okay. Any discussion? Get a motion to approve?
I'll
I'll
make the
move.
motion. Well,
A motion, a second.
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 10, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the execution of an interlocal agreement with the University of Texas at El Paso on behalf of the Hunt Institute for Global Competitiveness for the Tornillo Guadalupe Port of Entry Study.
Okay, this one's me as well. So this one, you may remember the name of this project because we actually have already been before you with an agreement with one of our IDC firms, HDR. They are providing certain studies for the county on this project. So this project is intended to identify the benefits of the Tornillo Port of Entry and share that information with the community and the logistics companies so that the county can increase usage of the Tornillo Port of Entry. So that's ultimately the point of the project, and it incorporates two distinct activities. One is through HDR providing those initial studies and the outreach through Atkins, which we're using Barracuda for. And then there's this second piece that you see before you today, and that's the Hunt Institute out of UTEP. The scope is included as part of your backup, and it's identifying all of the activities that are happening in the region. And so those two pieces of data are going to be used by the county to advertise essentially and reach out to logistics companies in Mexico and elsewhere to try to increase the usage of Tornillo Port of Entry. So that's really ultimately what we're doing. You've already approved the HDR component. That is underway now, and this Hunt Institute component is before you for review and approval. I would recommend approval. The scope and the fee and the timeline has been reviewed and approved by the county, and they are very supportive and very anxious to get this piece up and running. So happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I would recommend approval.
Okay, any questions? I hear a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay,
I'll second it.
I have a motion to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Before we move off this topic, Raymond, has there ever been any additional follow-up about us doing any kind of analysis regarding the movement of some of the commercial traffic from the BODA based on like the work that they're doing to kind of divert that? I remember early on there was a conversation about that.
No, ma'am. It didn't move beyond that initial conversation.
Did you ever do any follow-up with anyone?
So it did come up at the Mobility Coalition meeting a couple of times, but it didn't go anywhere beyond that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that we had the motion, it passed. We now go to item number 11, which is presentation and discussion on change orders recently approved by the Executive Director for the El Paso County Pavements Airport Hangar Expansion Project.
Okay, I'll handle this one as well. If we could move to the next slide. This one we talk about almost every month. The board has provided authority to the Executive Director to execute change orders up to $100,000. There were two of those in this last month. And they were both on the hangar expansion project. So this is the project. We'll go to the next slide. Those are the initial change orders all the way through number 9. The two that were approved this month include number 10 and number 11. Number 10 is a no dollar change order, so there was no increase in price or cost for that one, and that is to add wage rate determination. So this, ultimately what this is that you use federal wage rates for the payment of services rendered, and the rates that we had didn't exactly tie to the type of activities that are necessary for this project. So we added those in, and this is going to make the invoicing process a lot more streamlined. So there's no change, no cost to the addition of that one. That one was approved earlier, I want to say last week. as was number 11, and that's added excavation. So in order to pour a foundation, we needed to excavate it, additional quantities than were originally anticipated. So that's for an additional $92,000. This one, you did receive an email, as noted, with the resolution that grants authority for me to execute up to $100,000. If it's over $50,000, I have to send you an email that day or shortly thereafter, and that was provided to you, I believe, last week as well, or maybe early this week. I can't remember now. In either event, you've received that, and we're providing the additional backup today. So happy to answer any questions, but there's no action required here. This is just our monthly update on change orders.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, any comments? Item number 12, quarterly presentation, update and discussion following programs or projects. A, Borderland Expressway project, and B, the 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan.
For item 12A, I was hoping, Mr. Smith, that you would chime in on your recent participation in the ribbon cutting.
Okay, for those that weren't there, we had a ribbon cutting out at the completion of the Phase 1 project for Borderland Expressway. That's really an amazing, great start. And they was told by TxDOT at that time during that ceremony that they're looking at doing a groundbreaking for Phase 2 late this summer, early fall. So the MPO was there, and the funding has been approved for that second phase, which is the biggest phase, and that'll take the project all the way from where it ended in on Dyer Street there. That Phase 1 project was the frontage road there, and it's really nicely done, by the way. The frontage road between Railroad and Dyer, and then the rest of the project takes the actual expressway lanes all the way from Railroad all the way to the state line with New Mexico. And the third phase, which hasn't been funded yet, is the portion that's on Fort Bliss property that connects it to the Loop 375. So it was kind of an exciting time that probably finally, after all these years and all the people that worked on that for so long, it was nice to see concrete and people driving on it, to include me. And it was a great thing. It was nicely attended and nicely conducted.
So I'll add a couple of notes to that. I would mention that I do have some photos of Mr. Smith on the dais providing some comments. So I'll share that with the board shortly after this meeting. But beyond that, on Phase 3, it is, as Jim noted, it is unfunded. I met, though, just yesterday with TxDOT and the MPO and the City of El Paso. As you may recall, we executed an agreement with the City of El Paso to continue the Transportation Reinvestment Zone number 3 to serve as one of the funding sources for that particular project. And we met yesterday with TxDOT, the city, and the MPO to begin developing the funding approach. We've come up with a loose plan, and we'll be ready to issue State Infrastructure Bank debt off of TRZ number 3 revenues to participate in that. So Phase 3 funding is coming together as well.
And is that TRZ for Phase 3 or for general, the whole project?
It could be used for most of the project, if I remember correctly, but Phase 1 is complete, Phase 2 is funded, and so that just leaves it for Phase 3.
That's good. That's been like extracting a wisdom tooth. That's taken a long time. That was well done. Good job.
Thank you.
So have you met with the new representative out there,
Yeah,
Cynthia?
she attended. Okay. She attended the ceremony. Was got quite an education on the project, and the big thing there for the city of El Paso, and for the northeast part there is what was finished was the frontage road, and there's PSB-owned land on both sides of that section that is prime for development. And now with that highway in there, and also the additional improvements are being made, being done on Railroad Drive, that place, I think you will see it's sprouting up pretty quickly once things start there. It's very, very ripe for development.
Okay, great, thank you.
So that then takes us to item 12B, which is the Comprehensive Mobility Plan, the 2013 update. That, as usual, is provided as part of your backup. I'm happy to answer any questions, but no action required on either of these items.
Okay, and what was it you said you were going to cover at the end with the board members?
A picture of you.
Oh, no. Okay. No. Okay, item number 13. Staff reports. El Paso County A is Paso County Transit Facility Project, and B is the Pelicano Drive Widening Project. Staff.
Okay, 2 more items, we're almost there. Item 13A then is the County Transit Facility Project. This one I just wanted to bring back to you all. It's been quite some time since we've talked about this. This is a project that we've partnered with the county on to do several things. One is to assist them in the design, really more of a feasibility study to determine their needs for their county transit program. In terms of a maintenance facility. So how large does it need to be? How many vehicles does it need to be able to service? All those sorts of things. So we're working with HDR as part of our IDC program to provide those services. In addition to that, we're also lined up to do the design work once we are ready to move forward on that phase. A third piece is the acquisition of right-of-way necessary for the placement of this facility as well. So all of those things are kind of going forward together, but I did want to come back at least to talk about the right-of-way acquisition piece, because that's what we've talked about. We've talked about for quite some time. We have identified with the county a parcel for acquisition. But we need to complete the environmental process, and that's going to take quite some time. So I just wanted to bring it back, let you know that this is still ongoing. We do have a parcel in mind, but we do have quite a bit of environmental work to complete between now and when we're actually under acquisition. So more than anything, just an update, just to let you know that this one is still ongoing. The feasibility study is ongoing. The design is on hold. The right-of-way is on hold as we work through the environmental. So just an update on that one. And then item 13B is Pelicano. Unfortunately, I don't have much to share with you on that one. The trial has completed, as we discussed last month. All of the briefs have been filed. So all of this is now in the judge's hands, and we are just waiting for the judge to issue a ruling. As a reminder, the question before the court right now is, was the default proper? And that's ultimately the biggest question we've been waiting on an answer for quite some time. So hopeful to have an answer from the judge before too long, and as soon as we do, I will share that with you immediately, but nothing just yet. So happy to answer your questions on either of those items, but that's what I have for you today.
So how long has all the briefs been sitting with this judge?
Coming up on 1 month, and I will mention that in the last trial, his rulings came out 1 month after the final briefing. So we're hopeful that we're going to get something real soon.
Okay, so it's been about 30 days then.
Roughly, yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that brings us down to item number 14. Is there any reason for us to go into executive session?
No, sir.
Okay, and so that brings us to the end of the road. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion. That was slow in coming.
I was
I know, we don't want to leave.
Yeah.
No, you gotta give
They'd be
others a
jumping on the
chance.
table. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those before we adjourn, I'd like to thank all the people that take time out of their day to come here and be here for backup and information. And does anybody have anything pertinent that they'd like to add to what's transpired? If you do, sign up for public comment next time, so we're good. Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion adjourned, thank you.
Thank you, Jim, for
The
your
time?
leadership.
Did you give the time?
Yeah, the time is now 9:55 and a half.